For the second straight weekend, Britain's Lewis Hamilton is a winner. He follows up that success in Montreal with an outstanding victory in this United States Grand Prix. He resisted all the challenges that his teammate Fernando Alonso could throw at him. Another superlative performance from a young man who now leads the Formula One Drivers' Championship by 10 points from his world champion teammate Fernando Alonso. Another incredible day for Lewis Hamilton. Let's get the swift reaction of Mark Blundell. Will there be any complaints do you anticipate from Fernando Alonso? There were hugs up there on the podium.
I don't think there's any reason to have any complaints whatsoever. He's been beaten fair and square. It's been a fantastic situation for Lewis.
And Lewis's drive today, he showed what kind of qualities? Very similar qualities to those he showed in Montreal.
Well, we said after Montreal, Steve, that once he's won one, he's going to get stronger and stronger, and that's certainly the case today. Start to finish, under a little bit of pressure at times, but nothing what worried him one little bit.
Well, let's take a look at the start, and Alonso came at him so hard, but Lewis's track position was absolutely spot on.
No, I mean, Lewis actually was fantastic off the start. He just put a little bit of a defensive move in there to make sure that Alonso was kept behind. Alonso did actually put him under a great amount of pressure, but, you know, it was a clean start, no problems whatsoever. The back of the grid a little bit more connected with Ralf Schumacher making an incident and hitting in the back of Coulthard. Unfortunate.
So he handled that attack so well. Then he seemed to be faster in the first section of the race. After those first pit stops, Alonso, it seems, was fueled shorter. Was he trying to encourage any sort of team tactics from McLaren?
I think Alonso felt that there may be some situation where he should be out in the circuit to make that break while Lewis is in the pit. But, you know, overall, I think you've got to do it out in the circuit. You've got to get track position. I don't think there's anything on strategy there what went wrong at all. It was just a straight fight, and Lewis came out on top.
We will have time to analyse what happened a little bit more, but the thoughts from within the press conference will be very interesting indeed. Let's go straight in there now.
And Lewis, winning your second successive Grand Prix.
What a dream. To come into two circuits that I didn't know, my first time, you know, to really come out with such pace, to see the team moving forward always and being competitive, and just to see how much work the team back home, back in Brixworth, in Woking, in Stuttgart, how hard they all work to produce the car and to develop it. And they've done a fantastic job, and I'm just so thankful to them, because it wouldn't be possible without them. And the guys here, they're a great bunch of guys, and did a fantastic job on strategy, setting up the car. So really, it's a perfect team, and you know, I'm really happy I could put the icing on the cake.
And a very, very close race with your teammate Fernando throughout the race distance. You took the lead at the start, but by lap 38, Fernando was right there, and there was pressure all the way. It
was, especially the middle stint. I think the first couple of laps was extremely close. And then, obviously, I managed to pull a slight gap and maintain that. And then going to the middle stint, the outlap, the first two laps were very good, and then my tyres just started to grain. So maybe I pushed too hard on them immediately. And so Fernando was right up my tail, and it was extremely difficult. Obviously, he's in my slipstream the whole time, so he would always catch me down the straights. And so whatever I gain midfield, I lose on the straight. And so it was very, very tough, but he fought very well. Very professional, and at the end I managed to pull a gap, and we both I was able to maintain that gap and control the rest of the race.
As we say, your second successive win, but a win in the United States here at Indianapolis. Talk us through the closing laps of the race. Did it seem like a long, hot day for you?
It did. Obviously, it was great to see that there's a big crowd here, and they're all very, very supportive. A lot of British flags out there, which is fantastic for me. I get a lot of energy from that. But the last few laps were, it just seemed to be very long. And they came across the radio and said 15 laps, and I was like, okay. And then 15 laps just seemed a lifetime, especially when you're out in the lead, trying to maintain it, not to push too hard, not to damage the car. And so, but I was able to do it, and as I said, just very, very emotional.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Lewis. Fernando ran one lap longer into the first stint. It looked as if you might have a fuel advantage. Very, very close on lap 38 there, as Lewis just said.
Yeah, very close. I think at the start also was very close, but I did manage to overtake Lewis, and from then on, I think when you follow someone, you lose a little bit of downforce, and it's difficult to get the tires in conditions to push all through the stint, because you damage the tires maybe a little bit more when you run behind someone. So I think, I tried in the middle stint, and I was side by side once here on the main straight. But again, it was not enough to overtake him, and the last stint was just maybe a conservative one. It was very difficult to overtake, very difficult to follow anyone. So we just, I think, start thinking in the French Grand Prix.
We saw you run a little bit wide on lap 46 as well. Was that a function of perhaps the tyres getting a little bit dirty?
Yeah, it's so difficult to run behind anyone here. I think on the main straight helps you. You can gain 1 or 2 tenths in the main straight because you take the slipstream, but in the rest of the corners you lose so much downforce, you lose so much time. So yeah, I think this race, I think the start was the key point of the race, because after that I think wherever it was second, he will finish second in the race.
And if I can just ask you, how would you describe your start?
Well, I think it was good, but I think we both break more or less in the same point, and the start is always risky. I remember Canada going off in the grass and losing one position, so obviously I was with my teammate, so you try to overtake, but what you don't want is to finish the race in the first corner. So 8 points are better than nothing. So we increased the gap to Ferrari, which is one of the main things in this first part of the championship.
Congratulations, Fernando. Thank you. And turning to our Ferrari driver, Felipe Massa, third again. You probably don't want to hear that, but it looked like a lot of pressure from Kimi at the end there. You're on slightly different tyre compounds at the end of the race.
Yeah, it was a big pressure. Kimi was on different tyres than me, and for sure he had better grip, better track grip as well in the end of the race. So he was able to close very, very much the gap. But for sure, I did a good start. He didn't, and I could manage to make a good gap there. And then he got close, but it was after the last pit stop. So in the end, it was good. Managed to keep the car on the track, not making mistakes, and just keep him behind.
And how do you feel about the race against McLaren Mercedes today? Talk us through the first few laps. Do you feel you're any closer to McLaren at this point than you were perhaps in Canada or Monaco?
Well, in the first stint, I was maybe a bit closer, but they was pulling away the gap slowly, lap by lap, making 3 tenths quicker and everything. So, and then it was difficult for me to follow. So there wasn't just create the gap, especially Lewis was going away quite quickly. And my car, I couldn't push so much because I started sliding around. So, and then I just saw them going away. So it was for sure quite difficult for us to beat them today. But it's good to finish third and fourth.
Ferrari with their frustrations. Fernando Alonso has to give second best once again, and the Grand Prix winner for the second straight weekend. Britain's Lewis Hamilton, and Anthony Hamilton joins us here in the paddock, and we have to say, I suppose, happy Father's Day after that.
Thank you very much. Fantastic day. I'm here again. I can't believe it.
Reaction to that, and a story that just gets better and better.
Yeah, I mean, it's Lewis felt quite good going into the Thursday and the Friday. On the qualifying Saturday, obviously, I think the pole came and it was unexpected for us, but it was a fantastic feat, and we started today really quite calm, and he was pushed to the end, so it was a fantastic day today as well.
And then that was an absolutely straight fight until about a dozen laps from the finish. What were your feelings when Fernando really took the battle to Lewis?
Something, I mean, that's what we need, I mean, as a rookie, you need to learn, you need to be pushed by the best, and he was today. Hopefully, I mean, I didn't see Lewis make any mistakes, so I'm hoping that he learnt a lot, and hopefully next time it'll just be harder to beat.
Back to the UK now, and does that mean you come back to Earth, or does this hectic schedule and all the attention continue?
Well, we're looking forward to getting back to see the family, to be quite honest. Both of us, we're fairly homesick. We've only been away a couple of weeks, but looking forward to seeing the family. And I'm not sure what we'll do. I think we'll probably have a nice quiet Sunday roast next week, and enjoy cracking open a bottle of champagne.
Absolutely no chance of that. I think you're due at Goodwood, aren't you?
Oh yes, yeah, that's right. We will be at Goodwood.
I know your diary better than you.
Yes, yeah, cheers.
Off you go and give our
Thank you very, very much.
congratulations
All
to
the
Lewis.
best.
another fantastic
Thank you.
performance.
Bye.
And some final thoughts here from Mark about what Fernando Alonso might genuinely be feeling about the way that race unfolded.
I tell you what he's genuinely feeling. He's feeling he's been beaten fair and square, and he's also thinking now that all of a sudden there is a real threat to a world championship for him. Lewis Hamilton has to be in a reckoning now to pull this off. He's 2 in a row. He's got a little advantage now, a whole Grand Prix win advantage at this point. And at some stage in the very near future, his brain will have to tick in to say, right, the World Championship is mine for the taking.
He tried to push, and Lewis defended absolutely brilliantly. We saw mistakes coming from Alonso once again. He was just pushing that bit too hard.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of all of this, both the guys pushing as hard as they can. There's nothing there from McLaren saying, look, back off. They're both going in at hammer and tong. But again, you're right, Steve. Alonso just making a small error, and again Lewis Hamilton making no mistakes whatsoever, and that is the remarkable thing for all of us down here, to actually see this guy make no mistakes, 0.
And how seriously do we now have to think of Lewis in terms of the World Championship title?
Very, very, very seriously indeed. He is a contender, and he's leading the World Championship. Say full Grand Prix win under his belt in terms of margin, and I think it's quite possible, really is.
Well, he'll be back in the UK. As we say, he'll be at Goodwood next weekend. But ahead of all that, well, another chance to see highlights and the story of this United States Grand Prix at 11:50 tonight on ITV1, repeated tomorrow on ITV4. But the next round of this Formula One World Championship, well, that's the French Grand Prix in 2 weeks' time. Qualifying live on Saturday lunchtime, and the race build-up starts at midday on the Sunday. The French Grand Prix 2 weeks from now. But another supreme performance here from Lewis Hamilton. Another afternoon that's possibly tested the patience of Fernando Alonso. But this is Formula One at its fantastic best, and an extraordinary story for British sport. Bye-bye.
For all the latest news and features, visit our F1 website, sponsored by Honda, at itv.com/F1.